Hello, dear folks. Welcome to the East-West Show. Just a few days before the inauguration of Donald Trump, let's get into the studio of East-West Show that is exclusively sponsored by Paul Battelli, a Italian brand name for men's suit that represents culture, tradition, even fashion, and I'm wearing Paul Battelli. So Paul, thank you for sponsoring back to the show. The show today, after almost a year and a half of debating, at least debating between my good friends, two of them, Mr. Alan Del Monte, attorney of immigration, and Mr. Ken Hamming, political commentator. They both as close to me as brothers could be. And we amongst ourselves sometimes get lots of disagreement, and even between them, they get lots of even more disagreement. Yet, when we sit down drinking beers, we act like nothing happened, as if, right? Okay, now, so once again, to both of you, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here with you, Alan, and particularly your viewers, who I love so much.
Very good, very good. The pleasure is all you mine, all right? Yes, with the inauguration coming, lots of people declare victory, and lots of people saying that they are disappointed, which is a fact. I hate to mention that I myself have not been a supporter for our president-elect at this moment, Mr. Donald Trump. Yet we have a constitution to go by. We shall abide by our constitution regardless. So by that I mean we have to I have to unconditionally give him my support, yet problems still remain. Problems still needs to be resolved. So let me ask you, Alan, first. So what is your general comment about this very moment, about how people of the United States, we the people, feel at this specific moment?
Well, with respect to how people feel today, I could tell you that probably the majority of the Americans, especially in light of the people that voted, are not happy and are still not over the fact that President-elect Donald Trump was successful in his campaign. A lot of people are fearful. I deal with the immigrant community, and there's a lot of fear and hysteria. Children that are born in the United States don't know if their citizenship is going to be taken away. And I, as an attorney, have to play the role not only as attorney, but as psychologist and a spiritual advisor for a lot of these folks. And it's sad. It's with respect to feeling bullied, we're talking about a large community of people that feel bullied and are very anxious.
All right, thank you very much for your comment, very well put. And to Mr. Ken Hamming, how do you see or say the Americans, we the people, feel at this specific moment, please?
Well, like myself, I do not do drugs, but I feel ecstasy with the American people taking our country back from the radical left that has done so much damage in the last 8 years to our country. And I'm just going to relax, wait and see the cabinet members be formed, see Trump start executing his plans, and I think this is the happiest time in America. And all of these naysayers and people that won't attend the inauguration are showing their true stripes, and it's very sad. So, but everybody I know, we're business people, we're Americans, and we're happy.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Ken. This is also very well put. To me, as a show host, I have to act like a middleman, even though sometimes I do take a position myself. At this very moment, I'd rather choose to stay still in the middle to see what happens. The thing is that we may be overwhelmed, we may be disappointed, but one thing for me, logically, I have to say that I have to have a reason to feel optimistic, to be overwhelmed, and I have to have a reason to be disappointed, right? So, will you, each of you, give me an example or a certain area or a certain issue? This is one of the examples that I feel overwhelmed about. And then I would see another example. This is the area I feel disappointed about. So who you want to start first?
Alan's the superior mind. He should start.
Let me do alphabetically. Start with A. How about that? Yeah. And either by A or by D, you're ahead of Ken Hemming.
That's right.
Right?
I'm a loser.
I'm sure that Ken will have his time and he'll say what he has to say. Well, talking about disappointment, I'm very much concerned with this president-elect. I still haven't seen his taxes. And I don't know why he hasn't revealed his taxes. I don't know why he doesn't think he needs to reveal his taxes.
I see.
And my big concern for the next 4 years is the standard for our president, the standard for our politicians. I feel like it's lowered. And what I mean by that is transparency is no longer a big issue. Conflict of interest. There's still the specter of a conflict of interest. What will the president-elect do with his properties, whether they're going
to his business,
all his business dealings, whether it's going to go into some blind trust or not. We really still don't know. And whether or not the president-elect feels that he should be accountable to the American people and do everything he can to eradicate this conflict of interest, I'm not seeing that.
Okay.
And also with his appointees, a lot of issues arise, whether some of the appointees to the cabinet, whether they pay their taxes, whether or not they're in support of certain federal legislation.
Okay. All right. Let's stop for by that. And speaking of the appointees, I heard over a piece this morning that the nomination for the head of a department of energy. No, energy,
Treasury.
yes.
Probably Treasury.
No, energy of
Perry?
Well, that's Perry, Texas governor.
This morning, yeah, Texas governor. And he, 5 years back, he says that he declared that whole department didn't need to exist.
But he forgot it when he declared it.
Let's get rid of that. And he said this morning that whatever say now doesn't represent 5 years ago, whatever I said. And I think differently than 5 years ago. Okay, anyway, giving no comment, I just put the insert. Back to you, Ken, and no comment on his statement, but your own statement of why you feel happy, why you have your ecstasy. Please.
Well, I think we should comment on each other's statements.
No, follow my lead, please. And you excited about. Thank you for
well, the number one thing I'm happy about is, number one, we will have Supreme Court justices that will be on the court that will maintain the sanctity of the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and not change it to meet the radical left agenda. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about trying to get immigration under control. I'm a man of the law, and I want people to be legal. Otherwise, I do not support them. And then three, we do need to simplify the tax code. It's ridiculous. I was a CPA, I still am, and it's just you can't even understand it. So those are three things I look forward to very nicely, and I look forward to more energy independence. I believe we will have that. We will unleash some of the restrictions that have been put upon this country by the previous administration, and that's going to be exciting. I'm an America First guy, and I think it's going to be a glorious 4 years.
Yes, all right. Yes, with the head of the Department of Energy, who 5 years ago thought about overturning, just get rid of the whole department.
Right. There are departments existing now that will be eliminated. Because we have too many, like 19 or 18
no
in intelligence.
On each other's statement, no comment, just state our own, right? Okay, my dear audience, today, if you recall, for a year and a half, we see Alan and Ken lots of times, and we debate. And we thank to the system of our democracy. I believe everybody had the moment to express themselves. That is the beauty of democracy. Now we came to a point that we have a constitution to go by. By constitution, we have to unconditionally give him the support. Yet problem remains. That is the call for today's show. And once again, and I will say that I thank you for you guys, each control yourself, and let the differences remain, and we look together, like the show says, look forward, all right? So let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue finding the problems versus solutions. Stay with us. Hello, my dear audience, my dear fellow Americans. Please be welcome back to the show, East-West Show, exclusively sponsored by Paul Bettany, a brand name internationally renowned for men's suit. And we are back on the show to continue with discussion between Alan and Ken. Alan is attorney of immigration, and I believe for most of part of his life, he has been fighting for the benefit of those most vulnerables. And to him, lots of people owe appreciation for helping. And Ken, being a philosopher and a writer himself, and he is also the member of PCC Foundation, backbone friend of mine. He's a philosopher, he's a thinker, and between him and I, there's a lot of differences. We let differences remain. We always look forward hand in hand for our own future, right? So yes, together, I call it, even if we are welcoming a year rooster, we don't want to see cockfight.
We do not.
And it's not the moment. The moment is that we want to see even cock, right? Even roosters go hand in hand. They don't have a hand. But anyway, they don't have a hand. Okay, so go together to look forward. Now, we agreed to one fact that we all have to, I believe Alan agrees with me, that to give him support, Donald Trump, give him support as his president. We pray that, please God, let nothing wrong happen to the United States, to we the people, during his presidency. And we look forward only for the best. And now we're talking about, well, with that hope, even with that hope, the problems do remain, right? Do remain to be resolved. I start this time with Ken first. What problem do we have pending, unresolved, waiting for the incoming presidency, please?
Well, the divisiveness created by our prior administration in the Democratic Party clearly has stated they will resist everything that Mr. Trump and his administration will propose. And they are also willing to kind of resist it with hatred speech and perhaps violence. And so I hope it's going to take a lot of security, it's going to take a lot of persistence. In Western Europe, the radical left progressive movement has taken over Europe because people did not fight back on it. And the Republicans before did not fight back on it. Many of the Republicans have disappointed me beyond words. Okay. But Trump and his agenda will be firm and will fight back. And this leftist group now, as a whole, I think is irrelevant to America, and the noise that they make will pass right over everybody's heads and have no effect other than danger.
In other words, stability is the first issue that you are concerned of, waiting for resolution.
Cooperation and negotiation.
Okay. Giving no comment on his issue, what in your eye is the biggest problem that we have?
Yes. Well,
when I say that, I'm not saying that this very moment. I'm saying as a country, right?
I'm just going to give an example.
Waiting for his for next presidency.
With all due respect to Ken, but he does mention the word hate, and
yes, I do.
And this is my concern. This is like the language used by Donald Trump.
Once again, no comment on anything he says. Just what you see in your eye, the most important issue. Americans, you know what I mean. Americans waiting to get resolved, to see some solutions.
Well, it's so many issues. Workers' rights, civil rights, these are big issues. Whether or not the government will be serving the people, or whether they're going to be serving themselves. That's a big concern. for a lot of people. Whether the minimum wage will stay low, whether people will be able to survive. Healthcare. Healthcare is the big issue. I still do not know, other than that they want to repeal Obamacare, I still don't know how they want to resolve it, how they want to fix it. Why can't they just amend it? In talking about the issues between the Democrats and the Republicans, President Obama had a lot of difficulty in the last 7 years, let's say, getting any support from the Republican Congress. My concern is that the government will remain, in a place where they're not being productive, and that's a big concern. But again, there's different points of views, and I, as an immigration attorney, I worry about human rights, and whether or not this administration, this new administration, is going to be concerned about human rights. I don't see that Donald Trump has been concerned about human rights in his business dealings. Why should I believe now he'll be doing something for human rights?
Very good. His concern, major concern, as the issue for the nation at this moment is human rights. Human rights are being inclusive of all kinds. That includes immigration right? Okay, now, totally different from his question. I'll give you another question. He mentioned a part like, say, Obama having obstacles from the other end because of the resistance of Republicans. Now that we have a Republican president, we have a House majority controlled by Republicans, and we have a Senate House controlled by Republicans. It's Republican. Do we have any excuses of obstacles from other parties?
Oh, well, I don't, perhaps thanks to Harry Reid we won't, because now they cannot do certain things they could have done to block and delay legislation. But in terms of human rights, on Martin Luther King Day, Martin Luther King's son visited Donald Trump, and Martin Luther King is reaching out to the inner cities to try and will make a big impact on the inner cities. Chicago, where Obama's from, has 732 dead young black guys last year in Chicago, 4,000 shot. Nobody cares. Nobody's done anything to reach out to them. The inner cities will change, and Mr. Trump, I think, has spectacular human rights in his soul and that of his administration. So we'll see what happens, okay? But I tell you, the inner city will change. But, and then what was the...
No, I'm talking about the resistance from other parties, party line resistance. Yeah.
President Obama did not need assistance by the Republicans because he just used his executive privileges in unconstitutional ways to ignore the processes of America as designed by our founding fathers. That's what he did. So now we're going to wipe them out and then start over, and we will have the normal processes of congressional. The Congress makes the law, the president doesn't make the law. Not supposed to.
All right, now. Okay, very good. It's Alan's turn. Even though I don't agree with him with his term that Donald Trump wipes out President Obama, it's not that term.
Well, the executive orders that he will be reversed.
And by Constitution, by rule of this country, and it is time for him to step down. It is not being wiped out. So we have to do a little correction by attorney, because you're better with this word, because legality is in there. Yes, in there we want to clarify, right? I believe you will do your job, and I leave that part to you. Now, my question to you is that he mentioned about the fact that the Republican control everything, right? A Republican. In this case, my question to you is that where is the checks and the balance?
Well, we cannot assume that there won't be, let's say, a congressman or congresswoman or a senator who will not vote on party lines.
Correct.
So I'm hoping that we will see independent, courageous legislators that will stand up for their convictions. For example, in order to get one of the cabinet nominees approved, you're going to need a certain majority of the votes. That's 51 of the votes in the Senate, and you have 52.
52.
Yeah, 52 at this point that are Republican. So if all the Republicans support a particular nominee, well, that nominee is in.
Yeah.
Now the question is whether or not you're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 that might have issues with that particular nominee, and they're going to go the other way. Time will tell if we will see that.
So far, there's none. Every nomination passed so far. There's no rejection.
Well, they've only had 1 vote, I think, isn't that right, Alan?
Yeah,
Right.
there's still a lot of votes left.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, anyway,
left,
we have lots to vote. A lot of the nominations to vote, right? Okay, we'll wrap it up for this segment, and we'll come back right away to your question. All
Yeah.
right, I'll let you speak first.
It's good. He'll like it.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you very much. That deserves a bottle of beer at least.
I'm
Okay,
thirsty.
we'll be right back, my dear friends. Hello, my dear audience, my dear fellow Americans, fellow we the people. Welcome back to the East-West Show, exclusively sponsored by Paul Battaglia, an internationally renowned brand name for men's suit that represents culture, tradition, even lifestyle. Thank you for sponsoring, and get back to the show. And the last very moment of the last segment, we came to a point when Ken says that that's good, that's very good. What was so good?
Well, Ellen said people might cross their party lines on this voting. And I want to remind all our viewers, there's 12 Democratic senators that are up for re-election next year, many in states that Trump won. And I think there's a good chance that some of those senators will be a little bit more cooperative with the Trump agenda in the hopes of preserving their position in 2 years. I predict 4 to 6 new Republican senators will be elected in 2 years from now.
Okay. Do you expect the same thing?
I expect we'll probably get more Democrats in Congress in 2 years.
Senate.
And I said Congress, which
Senate.
is
Oh, as the
partially,
umbrella?
it's
Okay.
partially, there's 2 houses.
Yeah, 2 houses we're talking about.
I know
yeah.
that, yeah.
I'm just hoping that regardless whether they're Republican or Democrat, that they will do their duty. And if they feel like something is wrong, they're not going to vote in favor of it. For example, I'm talking about Representative Dr. Tom Price. There was an issue that came up with respect to stock that he had invested in, and then approved legislation that helped that stock. Again, I raised this conflict of interest and whether it was legal or not legal, we don't know. But this is something that was inquired into by the Senate, and I'm not sure. When I heard about it, I was really taken back, and
Amazing.
And my concern is again, healthcare, how they're going to resolve it. We haven't really received anything specific, and even during the hearings, we didn't get anything specific. So I'm just concerned if things come out and that may affect a senator, whether they're Democrat or Republican, that they're going to do the right thing, and not worry about whether they're going to get reelected in a couple years.
You're making
That's
a point.
all they worry about.
But anyway.
Well, when John Kerry made $500,000 to $2 million, I don't know exactly which, in conflicted transactions when he was Secretary of State, and the amount of money under Tom Price's deal from his advisor was $300. And this is what these guys do: make a mountain out of a molehill.
Okay, now we're
not $300, Jack.
Yeah, we're not talking about any of the past deals. We're talking about the future.
Today.
I know we're talking about how we look forward. By that we mean we just handpick our major problems.
$300.
Okay. You both mentioned the one thing about healthcare.
Okay.
Right, healthcare. So with the existing Obamacare, he mentioned one thing of like the quote unquote, I wish they will modify it, improve it, rather than replace it, right? So What's your take about the existing Obamacare versus a possible Trump care piece?
Yeah, Obamacare was passed without one Republican vote on lies. Lies that you can keep your, if you like your doctor, you can keep, if you like your program, you can. And in the last 2 years, the premiums have doubled or tripled or more, sometimes way more. And also what you have to pay, what do you call that? What you have to pay to before your deductible is just skyrocketed like $6,000 in a lot of cases where people can't do it. So it will, and the whole thing was designed, I think Alan would agree with that, it was designed to fail to then have a one-payer system by the government, which would be 30% of our economy under government control. So it's going to be repealed and it will be replaced.
Okay.
And I think, the numbers were like Schumer and these other people, I guess they're people that throw out 35.
Just pause a little bit.
Yeah.
That you and I and Alan, we all are aware of the fact that Obamacare is not perfect. Am I right?
Well, it's more than.
No, I think it was President Obama that said it was imperfect at the time that it got approved. So there's no doubt that it's imperfect. But 20 million, I believe. I don't know how many more million people have health care today because of it.
Do you think when this one is kind of like Obamacare, let's say it has a lot of loopholes in it, right? It is, well, not that perfect to a certain extent. Okay, question the other party. I mean, the other 50% of the question is that, do we have a replacement plan? Do we?
I'm not aware of a specific plan, and I'm not sure if even Tom Price is aware of a specific plan.
Do you think we have a replacement plan?
There are several plans, of the elements of which are being considered to coalesce into one plan. There will be no problem having a plan that I think will be very beneficial to the citizens of America. And it will happen. I don't know how.
Is it a fact that it takes lots of time to implicate a plan?
Not really.
And plus, we have to overturn on the one ahead of us already, and then in between time of stopping the first plan, replacing the second with the second, there's supposed to be a vacuum, right?
Not necessarily.
What are we going to do with a vacuum?
Right now, Mr. Trump is not president. Everybody's fantasizing.
But in 2 days, he will be.
No, in 1 day he will be.
Oh, one day, yeah, one day.
24 hours from now, I'm a happy boy.
24 hours, yeah, he will be. So,
but, you know, all we can do is theorize, fantasize. Let's let it happen. They're working on it, some of the best minds in America, and everybody cares about the citizens of America more than their own stuff in regarding to health care. So America, there's no country that really, you know, is more generous to each other.
Let me ask you, both of you, a question. That I believe the three of us bear the at least a college up degree. So we suppose ourselves to be a little educated, something like that, right?
So.
By logic, which we understand a lot, we go abide by logic each day. By logic, Alan, by logic, Cam, do we say overturning something when we have nothing in preparation?
They're not doing that.
By logic?
They're not doing it.
They're vowing it.
No,
they're vowing to overturn it.
They will overturn it. They will repeal it. And there will be a replacement.
One by one.
Talking about logic, I cannot conceive a smooth transition into a new system. It will take time. And you know, we will see a lot of issues with different insurance companies that are going to be competing against each other. We're going to see, you know, certain programs that are available to certain people and others that are not available. My concern is, as always, for the little person. And I think that a lot of low-income folks will be in a worse situation than they were before Obamacare. I think a lot of people are not going to have health care. They're not going to be able to afford the deductibles. We're going to rely on big business to take care of our health care, and we're not going to have what you mentioned, checks and balance. We have to you know, fleece corruption when we see it, and it has to be quick, but we also have to monitor this transition closely to make sure that the majority of the American people are taken care of.
Okay, very good. For that, I will just insert something, which is conversation conducted between me and a passenger friend from Australia, a professor of a certain university. We were talking about history, about length of history. And he says, well, length of history, judging by the number of years, is one thing. But to look into the history to see how many overturns, there's the other. That's the other. Suppose if you overturn a government or a system every 50 years, the country has only 50 years of history. It's only overturning, rebuilding, overturning, rebuilding.
That's why the Constitution must stay.
Let me finish. In other words, his point is that a successful system must be based upon the fact that the newcomers try to enhance the old ones, and still newcomers get enhanced, and get enhancement going on and on, generation after generation. I believe you look back into the history of the United States of 240 years, you see the enhancement, generation after generation, presidency after presidency. There's seldom presidency comes in and say, hey, let me overturn the previous presidency, and this is the way I do my job, like that kind. Okay. I'm saying that if there is any positive element, for example, the 26 years of age to be carried in the family plan for kids, right? And the precondition, no rejections of that kind. At least it is something that could be adopted into the new plan. Suppose they have a plan. Okay, I'll finish my comment. Okay?
Yeah, no,
and I'll let you comment.
It probably will, but I personally don't agree. The 26-year-old thing is just a thing because all these kids are coming out of college and can't get a job because we have a rotten economy, and even though we've got, quote, 5% unemployment, it's probably more than like 8 or 10 or more. But anyway, I don't think a kid needs to be coddled till he's 26 by his parents. But anyway, that's the way it is, and that will be retained. And look, I'm a cancer survivor, 8.5 hour operation. I had pre-existing condition, and I was taken care of. And when I went to get a new job after in my recovery,
so strong as a cow.
No, in my recovery, the glorious thing is people were not at that time hiring somebody that was still oozing blood out of their back scars, you know, and I got to give credit. Morgan Necto, the partner at the CPA firm, the founder that hired me, he just said to me, Ken, well, we need somebody, and if you die, we'll just get someone else. So start tomorrow.
Okay. You didn't
that
die.
was pretty sweet. No, but that was really, that was brave in those days.
Okay, but this morning you said you were so happy you won't die this moment because you were having your ecstasy.
I can now.
Right?
I can. Yeah.
Okay.
And my daughter liked that.
Don't die. I need
She's
you.
hungry.
All right. Don't die. I need you.
Yeah.
I like that kind of a take because there's still positive elements in there.
Absolutely.
And why don't we adopt the positive element to let it continue?
Those will
Let's
continue.
see if there's provided there's one condition that Donald Trump has a plan, but he doesn't. That's a problem.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
not true.
I think most Americans are reluctant to go to the doctor because they cannot afford the deductibles, they can't afford the co-pays. It was that way before.
case here.
And that's
It
Obamacare.
was that way before Obamacare, and it's that way now. And whether this is going to change, I don't know. I have a great PPO, and I could go to anybody I want, but it still ends up being costly. I don't feel that I get the greatest of care.
Same thing here.
And I often travel outside of the country to get medical care and pay cash outside of the country because I find that care is better than the care I get here in the United States. And I'm bothered by it.
I doubt that.
And I'm bothered by
Same
it.
here. Same thing happens to me. There's one day I went to see my doctor. I had to pay $95 just for one prescription, and that is my copay. $95 copay. Oh, no, I don't think so.
Well,
okay.
That's the other thing. The pharmaceutical industries are kind of controlled a little bit more in other countries.
I don't know. But
and I think it's going to change
I don't
here,
like
too.
Obamacare, and that's for sure.
Yeah.
But my concern is that me liking it or not is not the issue. Issue is that do they have a plan to replace it?
Well, let's hold our
I don't
breath
want
and
anybody
the
to
answer
say
is yes.
I want to replace it with a plan that I will be working on. Well, no, that's not a following logic, all right? Okay, now.
And they're not doing that,
well,
Jack.
we'll be right back, my dear friend. So with me today, my good friend, all and more, my owner, Mr. Ken Hamming and Mr. Alan Diamante, and they are so dear to me that they are my brothers, they're my backbones who argue all the time, and I argue too. All right, so let's make a point. That makes a very big point. We'll be right back, please. Hello, my dear folks, my dear fellow Americans. I will say hello, we the people. Let's get back to the table talking about we the people. With the East-West show exclusively sponsored by Paul Bettany, we would like to go deeper into our issues. The issues being now, we're talking about in a few hours, President-elect Donald Trump will be swearing in as our president of the 45th, right? At which point, President Obama wrote a letter to leave to the Oval Office, and lots of things are being said, namely those are more slogans than anything in contrary. I mean, in concrete, right? There is only one thing that he mentioned. Our lives have been changed because their marriages are recognized as equal to our own, mentioning about same-sex marriage. That's the only element he mentioned specifically in this whole letter. Other than that, we're seeing slogans rather than concrete deals, which I totally do not agree. Now, we'll talk about that later. We have more than one issue at this very moment. Like I said, we're talking about next big one, immigration. For immigration, I'm going to bring the crying baby to the mother. The mother being Alan Diamante, his attorney at law for immigration. So how do you see our immigration problem? Number one, by the size of the problem. Number two, by the depth of the problem. Depth meaning generations. I'm looking like a vertical, right? And then resolution do we have? And then I'll ask you the same question, please.
Sure.
Please.
Okay. Well, we have a big problem. Obviously, we have millions of people in the United States that are undocumented. A lot of these folks have children that are born in the United States. Mm-hmm. We have an international crisis where people come to countries like the United States seeking refuge and protection from persecution that they're suffering in their home country. This is also something that's occurring in Europe. Mm-hmm. We know that there's a refugee crisis there as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm still not clear. Again, I mentioned the humanitarian concerns by this president-elect. He has not entirely addressed it. He talked about building a wall, and he talks about this beautiful door, which I don't see really the significance of having a beautiful door in discussing a wall, whether it's a virtual wall or whether it's an actual brick and mortar wall. I do know that—
But that very day, right at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, President of Mexico says, I'm not going to pay.
That's correct. So he'll find other ways of charging by tariff.
And the president of Mexico said one way or the other.
Right. Well, this president cannot compel the president of Mexico to do things. He might be able to use his leverage to have him do that. Okay. But this president in Mexico is not even popular in Mexico. So
that's true.
So we just don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that our immigration courts are flooded. They're backlogged. The new Attorney General will have to try to figure out what to do with the immigration courts. Now cases are taking years to resolve. The majority of these folks are seeking asylum in this country, and if they're not approved by the Department of Homeland Security, they're referred to an immigration court, and in the immigration court, individuals have a certain level of due process under the law to make their claims. And this is all going to take time. My big concern is that there might be a streamlined effort to chip away at the due process and chip away at the civil rights.
The size and the depth of the problem. Any solutions we have?
Well, I think President-elect Trump will have to come up with a solution, first of all, for the 750,000 young folks that qualified under President Obama's executive plan that provided work authorizations and a stay of deportation under DACA, deferred action. My understanding is that there will be an executive action soon by the new president removing that.
Okay, very good.
And then the question is, what is he going to do with those folks? Does he plan to have all those people removed?
750,000 you're talking about.
And then we're talking about their families.
Okay, very good.
Well,
and Ken, your comment.
Yeah, I think he's got, I think Trump has priorities. Number one, there are hundreds of thousands convicted felons in America, okay, that are sanctuary cities, which I hope will all be defunded, if not eradicated,
Okay.
Will be the focus of those that need to be thrown out of our country. And I think Kate's Law will become law, where the guy that was thrown out 5 times came back 5 times or whatever, then shot her in the head. We have to stop that from happening.
Okay.
So, and the wall will be started soon. It will be started soon. It will be tangible. It may not be bricks, mortar, steel, whatever it's going to be something. And of course, sometimes it's just
solid wall, tangible.
Yes, tangible, just like China.
Okay, just like China.
The question is, are we going to have 2 walls? Because we have to do the northern border as well. Now Canada's accepting Mexicans.
We have a southern
so
part.
How do they get there?
They're probably going to have to build 2 walls.
Yeah,
How do they get there?
We're talking about emergency.
They could fly.
Which is more emergency.
Well, you need money to fly to Canada. But anyway, the focus will be on the American-Mexican border. And so it's going to be a process, and people like, where cities and that don't cooperate with the law of the land, there will be consequences to them. And I'm just waiting to smile as that becomes true.
Yesterday just declared their independence.
Who did?
Of the Santa Ana, city of Santa Ana.
Independence of what, America?
Independent of being a sanctuary city.
You mean being one or not being one?
Being one.
I am ashamed to tell you.
And they have 7 council members with 1 absent. In other words, the vote was 6-0. So to pass their
to be a sanctuary city,
their ornament for the being a sanctuary city, and they say go ahead, attack us one way or the other, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm ashamed to live in Pasadena.
We like that.
I'm ashamed to live in Pasadena.
Yeah, go ahead,
it's they're saying they're a
they're
sanctuary
doing that
city,
too, yeah.
And I'm ashamed of that because that's just defiance of the law, spitting on the face of George Washington and the Constitution in America.
Yeah, whatever they choose to do, so they say
so they can do it, and the consequences will happen. I don't know what they'll be, but I don't think they'll be beneficial.
Okay, very good.
Bring it on.
Will you guys allow me with my personal statement?
Please.
It's your show.
Very good. Okay, not my show.
It's your show.
show, right?
It's Alan's show.
And I have to make a declaration to my audience that whatever I say stands for myself, my personal opinion. I apply my 5th. That's it. How about that? I plead 5th.
Yeah, you're right. Perfect.
Off the record, I plead 5th, right?
That's no fun.
Yeah.
That's no fun. Anyway. All right. Now, I do understand your concern about the crimes. All right.
Thank you.
Versus the immigration problem. Okay. And I do have problem. People make the issue to go against immigration problems, to go even against the recognition of the problems.
Yeah, right.
I have a logic example, very example. We all breathe, right? When we intake airs, we take air oxygen we need. We intake the virus that we don't need.
Right, that's true.
Okay, so do we stop breathing because of the air that has a virus in it? Of course not.
No.
We eat food.
You wear a
There is
mask.
some bad food in it, bad element in it. Do we, or even choke ourselves?
Right.
Do we stop eating because there was one time I was almost choked to death? No, right? So recognition of the problem doesn't go with the fact the problem itself contains some element that goes against itself logically. So do I make a point clear? Or have I made
I had a hard time
clear?
following that one, but
No.
To
Do
be
you?
honest.
Do you? No, don't kid me.
No, I'm not. I have a hard time following it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He has a hard time. Do you have a hard time following me?
I'm still trying to follow you.
You're, oh my God. Okay.
You-
The logic
had a hard
is,
time.
oh my God, oh my.
But I usually see eye to eye with you, so I'm good
Okay,
with
now
that.
Yeah, he'll go
the
see
logic is that, well, okay, among the immigrants, all right, among the undocumented immigrants, there might be some bad apples who later on might turn into criminals themselves. right?
Right.
We do not just deny the whole issue about the problem of immigration to be taken care of only because there is a very small percentage of the bad element.
There's probably
exactly like the
800,000
air we suck in.
illegal immigrants here that have committed felonies,
us.
Jack, and have been convicted, and they're not getting out of here. So anyway, but I agree with, yes, that's not, but that's not what. So the actual one thing, if you stop illegal immigration, then just and I'm definitely against anybody that enters here illegally having a path to citizenship, because you've already demonstrated your rejection of law in this country. But then, if we just stop stop the illegals coming in, then there'll be a lot of things will take care of itself. But we have to get rid of the bad
Well,
guys.
you apparently disagree with Donald Trump. He believes there's 2 to 3 million undesirables with criminal records that need to be deported immediately.
It's 700,000 to 2 million.
Okay, well, he said 2 to 3 million.
Yeah.
2 to 3, okay. That's
so-
only a number
We don't
here,
know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
So, you know, that is a real small percentage if we're talking about 700 and
Yeah, you're
7 to
talking about-
800,000
okay.
versus maybe 12 million undocumented, and then we got
Oh
the
my
families,
God.
and then we got the families of those 12 million.
And their parents.
And then Donald Trump even talked about changing the law whether there's a birthright in the United States, which
should not
is
be.
very, very concerning, given the Supreme Court decision going back to the 19th century.
Should not be.
So, again, a lot of people have their opinions on what should or what shouldn't be, but you have to really be concerned about your brothers and sisters on this planet. And there's a lot of folks that are have-nots and they're desperate. And like you mentioned, people have to eat, people have to survive, and people, you know, have to travel if they can't do it where they're at. I just wish we lived in a society where we truly took care of our own, and it wasn't only for a tax write-off. And the 1% that control the United States, unfortunately, if they provide a charity if they get that tax write-off.
It doesn't.
Okay,
Actually,
yeah.
I don't think we should even have deductions for charity. Okay, I agree with that.
We're only laying down the problem, the size of the problem, or the depth of the problem of immigration. But the other part, 50%, more than 50% of the problem is that, do we have a plan? Do you think Donald Trump and his administration has a plan to do so?
Well, I think something will start this next week. Something will start. Do they have a plan? Everything. He's not even president. All these people say, wow, he's got no plan. Just wait. Let's just relax and see what happens. Then we can talk about the reality of what happens, not the fantasy of the future.
Okay.
Well, he ran an election campaign and never presented a plan. I think he had an opportunity. I think he had an opportunity during that time to provide a specific plan. You go to his website, you see some of his points, but they're, you know, we don't have specifics. Whether it's appropriate for him to have specifics, sure. Could he have gotten someone to help him write another book while he was running? Of course he could have, but he didn't.
We
still,
On the other
and again, I go back because
That's so silly.
he hasn't been transparent on many things, and he hasn't given us details. I don't know what that plan is. I just know that there's a lot of attorneys in the United States that are going to do whatever they can to give defense to these individuals.
All it takes is time. I believe for two years and even 3 years, the Americans are getting used to intransparency already.
So
they are no longer
there
asking
will
that
be
question,
transparency
right?
with Trump.
And
but
then,
I
if
agree
there's
with that.
having no plan is a abnormal thing.
You're
3
assuming
years
something
ago,
that's not true.
now we can be ready to call a new norm.
Hey, Jack, Obama and Hillary's plan was open borders, 6 million from South America. Come on up, go to McDonald's, we'll feed you.
Oh, nobody.
That's what,
No,
that's
that's a
what
lie.
their plan
That's
was.
not
That
a
what
lie. That's a lie.
Hillary's on
Nobody said
record
that.
saying that.
Did
that's a lie.
Hillary,
She's on record
did
saying
Hillary
that.
Clinton say,
I'll
come
bet
on,
my
come
life.
on,
Why
go
don't
to
you quote
McDonald's,
her
we feed you a
specifically
hamburger?
instead of paraphrasing?
Okay, let's
I
do
will. I'll
that.
send
Yeah.
it to you.
Let's do that. Say, let's
Yeah.
start with a quote.
She
Come
did.
on, come on, come on. Let's come to McDonald's. We feed you hamburgers. Unquote. Did she say that? Okay, show
She
me
did
next
say
time.
that she wanted open borders and anybody from South America
No,
was
but
welcome
she
to
didn't
come
say
up.
that. Come on, come on, come on to the United to McDonald's.
It's
We'll feed
rhetorical,
you a
it's
hamburger.
philosophical, so don't.
Come on, let's be logical here. Once we enter into a debate or discussion, we got to show hard-proven samples. Say, Ken, here's my proof. Like that kind, right?
I'd be happy to bring anything you want.
Oh my God.
I know how to
All right,
research.
okay. Thank you very much. God bless everybody. God
And
bless
America.
America. Today, my dear audience, this is on one with a very, very great honor. ever since election, the general election started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, more in condensedly, when we have Mr.
Whoever we are.
Ken Hemming and Alan Diamante, both at the show for debating, just to show the beauty of democracy. I believe this is the part of why I came to the United States for, and this is the part I like so much. I don't care who is president. Regardless who is the president, I'm still show host, right? I'm still getting paid the same amount of dollars for working here.
You deserve a raise.
So are Alan and I.
Unless you and I, either you or Alan, decides to give me some kind of a bonus, whatever. Yeah, and my dear audience, we love you all. We love you a lot. Me and my crew trying every bit we can to bring information. I owe my appreciation to my dear friend Ken Hemming, Alan Diamante, and Alan's beautiful wife, Lorena.
Right.
And if you happen to be watching, well, here's my appreciation. And for supporting him, I mean, especially for supporting him, being his driver, but this drive, this guy probably drive terribly, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, she's not my driver.
She's not your driver. Okay, you're her driver, right? Okay, now, so until next time, we'll see you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Hey, thanks.